Negotiation is a discussion between two parties to find out the solution and for the purpose of reaching a joint agreement about different needs or opinions. It involves using the art of persuasion to get others to understand and agree your viewpoint. It works best when an individual has a win-win attitude. That are involved in a successful negotiation are that of good communication skills, sales and marketing skills, good psychologically analytical skills, sociology skills, assertiveness and conflict resolution skills. Therefore, negotiations may take place between various kinds of different people, such as between a customer and a seller, a boss and an employee, two business partners, between spouse, between friends, and between parents and children. Let's understand few basic principles of negotiation. So there are a few common principles, right, that apply for all types of negotiation and in all situations. Some of the basic principles of negotiations are as follows. There are always at least two parties involved. Any negotiation process doesn't work with one. In any negotiation, the two parties share at least same common interest, either in the subject matter or in the negotiating context that brings both parties together in a negotiation. The initiation of a negotiation always starts due to different opinions and objectives of two parties, which hinders the outcomes in general. It is general belief, that parties do consider negotiation as a better way to try and solve their differences. Each and every party enters into a negotiation with a firm belief that they do have a chance of persuading the other party to modify their original stance. Every negotiation process involves compromise or change of opinion of one or both parties in order to reach an acceptable final agreement. It is important that in every negotiation, adequate time is at hand in order to debate the various viewpoints of both the parties and then reach to an agreement. The negotiation process is always a process of direct and verbal interchange, which involves interaction between parties. Each party has some influence or power, whether it may be a real or assumed, over the other abilities to act and think. Negotiation is an art. You can get better and better with it, with time and with practice. If you feel that you don't have an innate talent for negotiation, don't be disappointed, because these skills can be honed and developed with a proper training and practice. People who always speak good things may feel that they are good negotiators, but that is not always the case. Negotiation is all about understanding what you want and what the other person wants, and then coming up with a win-win scenario. Negotiation happens everywhere. It's omnipresent. You may have to negotiate over anything, right from the deadline of a project to which person will do what work at home. Everything has to be negotiated. In the real world, it is sometimes difficult to ascertain whether your negotiation is good or bad. You may think that you are a good negotiator, but in reality, it may be just the opposite. Even before you negotiate, you will have to know what can be negotiated and what cannot be negotiated. These are few basic principles that you should keep in mind. Let's also try to understand what could be the benefits of a negotiation. So few of the benefits could be: good negotiation helps you to gain better control in business as well as personal situation. To identify and understand yourself as well as the other parties' interests and also understand the differences between both. It helps to reach a win-win solution, which is mutually beneficial to all parties involved in the negotiation. Good negotiation also helps to improve interpersonal relationships. Good negotiation helps to develop and maintain an overall harmonious and thriving interpersonal environment. It is one of the easiest and the quickest way to solve conflicts and disagreement. Negotiations help to reduce stress and frustrations among two conflicting individuals. Negotiation helps to reach an agreement in cases where dead end may be reached in a consensus is not established between two different needs, wants or opinions. Let's also try to understand about different stages of negotiation process. The following are the stages. First stage is meeting. Second stage is enquiry. Third stage is bargaining. Fourth stage is closure. And fifth is acceptance. Let us understand these 5 stages in little more detail. Stage 1, meeting. The first stage of negotiation process is the negotiation meeting that happens. The meeting can be in a formal or informal setting. When there are 2 parties meeting, the venue, date and time are decided first. The meeting begins with introductions. Second one is inquiry. The second stage of negotiation process is the stage of inquiry. During the inquiry stage, both parties exchange information and discuss their concerns. The main objective of this stage is to ascertain the strengths and weaknesses, needs, wants, desires, and issues. The third stage of negotiation process is that of bargaining. During the bargaining stage, both parties makes offers and trade-off. At this stage, both parties consider all the possible options available to find a middle path between differences. Most of the times in the negotiation process, this is the stage where it takes a lot of time, where everybody needs to put, where both the parties needs to put their options one after one and then come to a middle path where between these two things. The fourth stage, right? This stage occurs after both the parties have looked at all the options closely. During the closure stage, both parties restate their positions and confirm their trade-offs they are willing to negotiate. The fifth or the final stage of negotiation process is acceptance. During the acceptance stage, both parties would either decide to suspend negotiation or they may reach an agreement. The entire purpose of the negotiation process is during this stage, they reach to a particular point where they decide on what can be done. There could be different outcomes of the negotiation process. Like if I could put it in 2 axes, one say, both the parties, say me and you, and we also talk about win-win and lose-lose. So it works like that, where both of us could win. Negotiation outcomes. So if you look at the possible outcomes with respect to parties involved in the negotiation, there would be four different options are possible. Either we both lose, or I lose and you win, or you lose and I win, or we both win. It's very important to figure out which of these options that we're working for. So there's this concept called as win-win negotiation, which takes us towards how a negotiation can be done and how this entire process works, so that it's not one way you look at it. The best possible part of a negotiation is when both the parties win. It's not like I always win and you lose and you win and I lose. It doesn't really work. A very, very good negotiation would be that where it is always a win-win thing. How do you go about win-win thing? So the following are the few critical concepts that you should keep in mind for a win-win negotiation. Almost all of these are basically a reflection, right, for yourself, for what actually it is and how it works. The first critical concept, right, is pause for reflection. Basically, you need to ask questions. What do you want from this meeting? You got to be very, very clear. Ask these reflective questions to yourself. What do you want from this meeting? What resistance do you envisage? What could be the resistance from the other party that would come? What will you do to overcome this resistance? Now, if you are clearly prepared in your mind what exactly you want in this meeting and what could be the resistance and how do you overcome this, you are basically in one step of towards the win-win negotiation. The second one talks about search for the needs and requirements. Ask yourself questions. What are my needs and requirements? Right? Figure the same thing out. What are the needs and requirements? What are the needs and requirements of the other party? Right? It should be very clear. We understand what are our needs, what are other party needs. How do we have? What do we have it in common? Right? Where is that common thing that comes, and what are the biggest gaps? If you reflect and if you find out answers for these questions, it is easier for you. That's where you cross the second step of win-win negotiation, which talks about search for needs and requirements. The third critical concept is clarify your objective in the beginning. To do that, ask the questions. What are the most important issues that need to be discussed? Prepare for the negotiation pretty well. Figure out what could be the most important thing that I need to discuss. What are the most important issues of the other party, right? It's not just my issues or my concerns. With regard to other party, what could be their issues and their concerns? And what are the levels of potential outcomes? Where exactly we balance it and what could be there? The next concept or critical concept is agree on factual information. So when you need to agree on factual information, you need to again ask questions on: have I examined all arguments that I intend to use during the meeting? Which of the arguments are assumptions? Which of the arguments are facts? You got to be very clear in your head when you are preparing for a negotiation, that what is it all that I'm going to put across during the meeting, and what are the assumptions and what are all the actual facts for the argument that you are building there. The last stage of it is control the outcome. To control the outcome, ask the question: what elements of timing can you control, and what is the best combination or channel? Figure that out. Now when you reflect on all these questions, you are much prepared of how do you go about a win-win negotiation. Let me quickly take you through the critical concept. The first one is pause for reflection. The second one is search for needs and requirements. The third one is clarify your objectives in the beginning. The fourth is agree on factual information. The fifth is control the outcomes. These reflective questions, something which you need to ask to yourself, get answers for that, prepare well, and then go ahead for the negotiation where you could go for a win-win thing. My advice on a negotiation could be this: one of the best practices that you can follow for an effective and successful negotiation is to always have a face-to-face negotiation. Try your best and avoid negotiations over the phone or email. It doesn't work that way as much as a face-to-face negotiation can help. Negotiation in person helps you to understand the other person better by watching out his body language, his or her facial expressions, vocal intonation, and other clues that can help you negotiate better by getting an insight into what other person is thinking. It is very important that negotiation happen face to face. When we see them, when we talk to them, we understand, and we also put our point across. Through an email, through a phone, it doesn't work. So always try to have your negotiations face to face, and always think of how well it can be a win-win situation where both the parties wins.